Welcome to our rapid fire Q&A. Give me just a second to get caught up and then we will get started. We've been doing rapid fires, but it's been on Mondays. And Mondays are just a little too crazy and chaotic for me. And oops, there we go. And so we moved them to Tuesdays. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. The next couple of weeks might be a little slow and fast because we're just starting this on Tuesdays. But we'll get in the groove of things and people will get the word out about rapid fire. So I'm not going to read all the questions I'm not going to read all the comments tonight. I will only read questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I do not see any at this moment, so we will just take a few minutes to get everybody in here. And if there's not any questions, then we'll chat for a few minutes and get off. And if there is, we will try to answer those and help you on your journey with Coturnix Quail. So if you have any questions about quail for profit or raising quail or breeding quail or anything to do with quail, feel free to ask now and we will get you taken care of. I would like to do a special thank you to Verna and Ed for being the moderators, not only on tonight's live, but also on Sunday night's live Q&A. We do have a Sunday night live Q&A, which is more of a community setting, and I read all the comments and we hang out and we do a couple fun things on there. We're skipping all that on the rapid fires. I'm not answering any questions right now, but once we get started and once we get the ball moving, not just tonight, but in general, we'll start getting questions. If you can, if you do have any questions, ask now, and if you could put a couple question marks at the beginning or at the end or anything like that, so that I can better see the questions, I would greatly appreciate it. And I did see a question come in from Vermont Quail. It says, yeah, I figured it. Question for you, Verna Young. Last time you said to order early, that is eggs. Is this to get them out at a certain time without any waiting? Usually, usually there is going to be some sort of small wait. Now, it's been very different the past couple of years. So pre-COVID, and I hate to say that, but pre-COVID, typically the how the business was January through July, August. We were on a pretty steady wait, and then it kind of slows down, picks up a little bit in end of September, October, and then it dies down November, December, is usually how it goes. Now, since COVID, it's expanded through like October, mid-November. We slow down for December really, and then it skyrockets in January. So January through April is for sure the busiest time of the year. But the past few years, it's actually extended past April. But I am working extremely, extremely hard to increase our numbers. In fact, I just moved 176 hens into cages. So we got not new colors. We got two colors completely revamped. We actually increased our numbers on those a little bit, added more to the cage. And so when we replace our breeders every year, we weigh them, we see the egg size, we do this, we do that, and the two that we just finished up were actually increased numbers from last year as far as their weight is larger, the egg size is larger, they started laying earlier, and then the last generation of them actually increase their production as far as egg laying goes. So I'm excited to see what these will do as well. Egg Got Baked says, so those were tomato cages on the fence? They were, yes. We have a lot of tomato cages. I don't know why we have so many, but he uses most of them. I'm not a garden kind of person. If you like gardening, more power to you. We need more people like that. It's just not for me. Luckily, Jenna enjoys it. George is pretty good at it, and Dennis, that's his focus. So, but it's just not for me. Brandy Tools in the house. When will the jumbo brown eggs be available again? I tried to order some a while back and they weren't available. I took them off right after QuailCon. They will be back on the website January 1st, and it looks as though that all orders that have been ordered for jumbos will be out in the next few weeks, and then we are putting in like 800 eggs a week between now and January 1st to triple our numbers, increase our size just a little. I don't want to increase it too much, and hopefully we're increasing and improving the production line on them as well. So we'll be very particular on what goes in the cages. Let's see. And again, we're just doing rapid fire, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask now. I will go as quickly as possible so that we can get whatever else that we have on our to-do list done for the day. But I did want to give the opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. But I will not be reading all the comments. I do that on Sundays, but I'm trying to stick to a rapid fire Q&A on Tuesdays. Let's see. David says, how was the chili with honey? We have not had chili yet since I've had the honey, I don't think. They did. I was not here. I was actually out of town. But Jenna, when she made it, she said it was delicious. It was amazing. Rudy says, when you have sex links, can you just keep breeding them? Once you have sex links. Sex links are great. It's a little confusing, and I will try to break it down the best of my ability, but I do have a few videos about that. So, and you have to be very particular in this because I did it wrong one time and it went real bad. But if you type into the YouTube search bar, sex-linked quail by Myshire Farm, my videos will pop up. If you don't put that in there, you get some crazy stuff showing up on your YouTube. So just make sure you're putting in sex-linked quail by Myshire Farm, and that will go into more detail. But long story short, you need Egyptian males with Pharaoh hens or wild hens or brown hens or whatever. They're all the same. In fact, I had that question today. Someone said that they had heard that jumbo wilds and jumbo browns were two different things. Jumbo wilds were to be released. Jumbo browns were made for meat and eggs. That is not accurate. That's false. It's the same exact thing, just a bunch of different names. So there's Pharaoh, there's wild, there's brown, there's common, there's meat maker, there's gigantic, there's Goliath quail. I mean, but it's all the same thing, just different names. But you need Egyptian males with Italian. No Italian. You need Egyptian males with Pharaoh hens, and they will produce sex links, but they're opposite. So they'll hatch out Pharaoh males and Egyptian hens. So to keep producing sex links over and over. Now, once you put Egyptian males and Pharaoh hens together, their entire lifespan, they will produce sex links every time. But to replace your breeders, you have to actually have a separate cage of the opposite, so you can replace those, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Let's see, quality quail, I think. Is that where I'm at? Yes. How could I get a hold of you for a big special order? My phone number and my email address is on our website, myshirefarm.com. At the very bottom, it'll say contact us, and my cell phone number is on there as well as my email. So there you go. Let's see, I got to make sure I get them the end-ish of March. So I'm actually going to address that. So the best thing to do is to order as early as you can. So for example, if you're wanting jumbo wilds or jumbo mix or whatever, you could order January 1st, and in the notes section at checkout you can say, please ship first the last week of March or whatever. And since you'll be in the queue, you'll actually be able to go out before that, but we will hold and get other orders out, but then you'll be guaranteed to get that order out exactly when you want it to be. But we would need, months in advance because we get busy. Michael Perry says, evening, y'all. Question, landed my first market for eating eggs. Congratulations, that's really cool. And they're having an event next month and want me to set up a booth. Awesome. Any ideas I should do for my booth setup to bring more attention? It sounds, my first market for eating eggs. Sounds a little crazy, but bear with me. We actually had a lot of success with putting, we just got a little cage, like a rabbit hut cage, real small. We just put a breeder set in there. And then, you place an egg or two in the rollout, and people love that. The male will make a little bit of noise, and so it'll bring people in, and they'll be like, oh my God, these things, you take care of these, and these are the eggs, and it's just, so that's a really cool thing. I would probably do some printouts about the health benefits of eating Coturnix quail, and you cannot say enough about homegrown, farm fresh eating eggs. So you're kind of selling yourself just as much as you're selling the benefit of the quail eggs and how cool the quail are. So it's kind of a 3-in-1 kind of thing. But that's a couple of ideas for you. Tiny Quail Farms in the House. At what point do you recommend getting MPIP certified? You don't have to be MPIP certified, but I like, if you have multiple animals on the farm, it's a very good resource to become MPIP. Now, technically, the only reason why you would need to become MPIP is if you're going to sell beyond state lines. That's the only requirement. So you would need to do that if you're going to ship or sell across state lines. But it's a really good resource. So I've used this example before, but way back in the day, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, winter came and brooders were full, and we were losing chicks left and right, and in the brooder, and we could not figure it out. I mean, it was the right temp, the feed was fine, the square feet was fine. I mean, we could not figure it out. So we called our MPIP guy, and he and his boss came out, and they asked us to save a couple that died. They opened them up and said, yeah, they're starving to death. And we said, no, they're not. The feed's right there. I mean, look at all the brooders. Well, it turns out that when winter came, the food and water was too far away from the heat source. And so they were so cold moving away that they would rather starve themselves and be warm than go get a drink or get some food and then come back to the heat source. And so literally they were starving themselves to death. So we moved the food and water in by like 4 inches, 5 inches, and didn't have another death. We never would have figured that out. Like, it just never would have dawned on us because this had went on for like a month, and we were really scared. And it turns out that it was just something that ridiculously simple. But they're a great resource for that. And usually they'll give you a lot of information, like if you have chickens and things like that, they're just a very valuable resource. So I don't think it's a problem. It's not that much money to have them in your back pocket. But, if you've got a breeder set, if you got 2 breeder sets, it's probably not worth it. We do our lives, we can try to help you here, things like that. But, if you've got 50, 100, 150, if you're selling a little bit on the side or whatever, it's a great resource to have. It's a good question. Aaron says, question, at what age do you weigh and determine that a jumbo doesn't make the weight to be in the breeding program? That's a great question. So with just our jumbos, so we only do this with the jumbos. We don't do this with the standard colors. Now, we do weigh all of our standards before we put them into the breeding program, but we don't, it's not as strenuous. It's not it's important, but it's not as important as our jumbos as far as weight and weighing goes. But with that being said, we actually start weighing them at 3 weeks old, and we weigh them every week, because you'll find that some 3 week olds might like be kind of the runt, like they're on the smaller end of the weights. But by the time they're 8 or 10 weeks old, they've caught up. Well, that's fine, except for I don't want that in the breeding program, because for some reason it was struggling to make weight at first. So even though it ended with the same results as the big ones, I'd rather not put that into the breeding program. We are very particular and very specific about that. So I don't necessarily say that you should do that. It's a really good practice, but it's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of work, and I don't think I would care about it if we were not shipping. So if we were just raising them for ourselves anymore, we would weigh them at 10 weeks old and be done with it. But we weigh them every week, starting at 3 weeks. It's a lot of really good questions tonight. The Jumbo Egyptians, should I call in to put an order list? No, I'm not taking any orders until January 1st, because I am being very greedy and using all of the eggs for me. I've got to increase our numbers quite a bit so that we don't go on such a long wait, because that stresses me out, and I can feel myself just aging and deteriorating inside with all the stress because I'm just so backed up. So not until January 1st. Debbie says, hello, Zach. Is it possible to order teenagers? We're actually setting a cage aside. We're building a cage this winter. That cage is only going to be putting eggs into the incubator every week for live quail every week. But we won't be shipping any until mid to late January. It's going to start getting cold with the holidays coming up. USPS has some issues, and people take time off, and the regular people are usually not there. This, that, and the other. So we won't be shipping any live quail until about mid to late January, but we'll put them back on the website for sure. Vermont Quail says, how can I make sure to have eggs sent to me the 3rd week of March? We already did discuss it. I think you asked that before I answered the question, but you order in January, put in the note section at checkout, I need them the 3rd week of March, and then you're guaranteed to go out then, as long as I have enough time, which that would be plenty of time. Dr. Connie says, hello from Florida. Welcome, Zach. Thank you for the help today. Can you comment on the fees? How many colors are fees? Well, you can pretty much have any color be introduced with fee. You see, fee is a gene. So let's take the golds, all right? So the Italians, the golds. They are gold and brown, right? Well, if you introduce the fee gene, and we did that by using the GPCs, the German pastel collection, because that's what carried the fee gene over into the States. We put German pastels with Italians with golds, and we started getting the golds to have the fee gene attached to it. Now with the fee gene, it actually transforms the color, the feathers, to different colors. So it pretty much takes the color out of it, and that's how you get pearls. So the pearls are the black and white. They kind of look like the snowy bob whites, right? They're actually an Italian quail. They're a gold quail with the fee gene. Another example real quick is the Fab Fee. The Fab Fee is gray, really cool looking, feather sexable. Really, all it is it's a wild with the fee gene that we've attached to it, which changes the pigmentation of it. So it's pretty cool. The Texel, I hope I said that correctly. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Says, when do jumbo whites start laying? Anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks. Make sure that they're 3 quail per square foot. Make sure that it's 5 hens to every 1 male, and make sure they're getting 16 to 18 hours of light a day. And obviously make sure that there's always food and water ready for them to eat and drink whenever they want. And then you'll have them between 6 and 8 weeks. Good questions tonight, everybody. Sarah says, do you have advice for Rhineck? I had a batch of Celadons hatch out from eggs I ordered with a lot of Rhineck, and I don't know if it's genetic or nutrition. That's a great question. So I'm actually well, I can't talk about that. So I will answer your question. Never mind. Anyways, that's a really good question. So Rhineck possibly could be genetic. Most of the time, not always, most of the time it's actually a humidity issue in your lockdown, in your incubator. So if they hatched late, it's because they developed too much in the egg, and so they grew like this, and then their bones curved, right? Um, so Rhineck is not treatable. You can't fix Rhineck. Usually, most of the time, they grow up and they are happy and healthy and they do fine, and the majority of them will lay eggs like normal. It's not ideal to put them into your breeding program, but if you're trying to start a covey, which by the way, a group of quail, a group of chickens is called a flock, right? A group of quail is called a covey. So if you're trying to start a covey of celadons or whatever, you could use them for one generation and then, get them out. If it happens with their eggs, then it is genetic. It's usually not, though. It concerns me a little bit that you had a lot of Rhineck. Usually you only have, 2, 3, 4 out of 100 if you have a humidity issue. If you had a lot of Rhineck, it possibly, it could be. I would have to have a lot more information. I'd have to see them, this, that, and the other. It's a possibility. Now, with that being said, if they did not grow or if they did not hatch Rhineck and they developed Rhineck at like 2, 3, 4 weeks old, then that is a nutritional issue. And that is either they're not getting what they need out of the feed, or, to confuse you more, it is a genetic issue and they are lacking something that they really need. Again, genetics are kind of the small percentage of it. Usually it's a humidity issue at lockdown, or if they developed it at 2, 3, 4 weeks old, then it's usually a feed issue. But having a lot of them, it concerns me a little bit. Foster Farm says MPIT certification in Tennessee, they won't come out to certify your birds until they are a minimum of 6 months old. That's true. I think that's in most states, actually. I forget to mention that because I have a lot of quail. Jennifer says, are older male quail harder to process skinning wise? Yes, they are. I had better success my first process. My second one was an older bird. Maybe I just had issues this time. No, that is true. They are a little harder to skin. You can definitely tell a difference for sure. I mean, it's doable, but it's going to take you about double the amount of time, which is still not a lot, but you're not doing anything wrong. That's a completely normal thing. Tiny Quail Farm says, what mix can I get from a male Coturnix and a female Texas A&M? Most likely you don't actually have Texas A&M unless you have a golden ticket, unless you have a certified letter from the University of Texas A&M that says that these came from them. But if you put a wild and a white together, you're going to get wilds and whites, and eventually you'll start getting wild tuxedos. Ozarky says, how long after introducing males to female are eggs considered fertile? It's a great question. I'm going to make it a short answer because I've been going on and on and on. But the short answer is it could be as early as 3 days. I always recommend wait 7 days. So when you put the males and females together, just for the next 7 days, just eat the eggs or give them to your dog or, pass them out. They're edible. It's not a big deal at all. But to start incubating, it's better to wait 7 days once they're together. Really good questions tonight, everybody. I'm really, really impressed. Let's see. If you do have questions, if you can put a couple question marks at the beginning and or at the end to help me see the the questions a little better, I would greatly appreciate it. Here we go. Brandy says, you are doing a great job. I can't wait to make my order in January. Thank you very much. Nice says, keep up all the good work. Also, big thank you to the mods. They are on point as always. Yep, absolutely. They are on point as always. And remember, Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live Q&A community setting. I read all the questions, read all the comments. We do a couple fun things like where everybody's from. We talk to each other, things like that. It's a good time. On Tuesdays, we're only going to do rapid fire. So if I'm skipping your comment because it's not a question, don't take it personally. I'm just trying to go fast for people that just want to get their questions answered as quickly as possible. But I do appreciate everybody being here. And obviously, I have a small issue with not reading the comments because it bothers me a lot because I want to, acknowledge you and everything, but I have to remember what the purpose is. Aaron says, when can we start talking about and planning QuailCon 2023? Do we really have to wait until next year? Whew, that sounds awful to me right now. I will get into the spirit, I promise. Usually I don't start until about February. I need to give myself a break. I've got about 4 different projects going on that I want to get done before January 1st. And then the first month of January, it's all about the quail barn. Mid-February is when I start picking up, and some things are planned already, but probably mid-February. I need a little bit more time to work on the stuff I've been behind on. But I'm glad you're excited about it, and I can't wait to see you again. I'm glad you were able to make it for 2022. Superhero Quail says, could the Rhineneck quail be called and eaten? Yes, absolutely. For the most part, they're healthy. They just, Rhineneck is kind of, I don't mean to offend anybody if I do. Rhineneck is kind of like scoliosis in quail. It's just, yeah, but they overall, they're fine. And for the most part, they're productive. It's just, I don't know if you want them into the breeding program. But yeah, they taste delicious. AJG says, I got a little giant incubator. I keep getting lower temp in the middle, average 98.5, and outer edges of the incubator range between 99.5 and 100. Is this okay? Should I not put the eggs in the middle? What I would do first is actually insulate your incubator a little bit. If your eggs are not in there yet, if you're still, working with it, make sure the fan is working correctly. I do love the fact that you're checking that out. That's you're gonna succeed. So congratulations to that. But what you will want to do is insulate your incubator with a towel, a blanket, anything like that. That should help insulate the incubator and let it circulate a little bit better. And then that should fix your issue altogether. If that still doesn't fix the issue, you should still be okay. If you don't have to use the middle, don't. If you need to use the middle, you're still in that okay zone, even at the 98.5. But I think even insulating it, even if it gets up to 99, then you're golden. Great questions tonight, everybody, really. Cody says, hey, Zach, I put 445 of your jumbo wild eggs in the incubator and 396 hatched. That is awesome. Congratulations. Those are great numbers. I need to look. I think you had texted me those numbers and I put them in already, but I will double check. But that is phenomenal numbers. 396 out of 445 jumbo wilds. Congratulations. You did a great job. Sarah says, okay, thank you. I had 3 of the 12 with Rhineneck. One of these seems to be neurological issue as well. It was the first time for me to have Rhineneck like this. I would call them. 3 out of 12 is quite a bit. I don't have all the information, so take this with what you will. my thought is I would call the 3. I'm a little concerned about the genetics of it. Plus, one of them has a neurological issue. I would get rid of those 3 immediately, and I wouldn't breed them. I'm sorry. You don't have to. I'm not working with all the information either, but that's what I would do. It's better to be safe than sorry. Robert says, I know I have plenty of questions, but darned if I can remember them. I get that all the time. Every time I get, around someone that I had a question for, I go, I'll call you later, I guess. I don't know. All of my male quail are not crowing anymore. I have a bachelor pad of separated males due to process in an aviary with 1 roux and 5 hens. Is the lack of crowing a sign of unhappiness or content? No, I think they're fine. It's a little weird that you've got a bachelor pad and they're not crowing. That's a little odd. Now, if they're not getting light, if they're not getting supplemental light, then that would be the reason why. So it says that you've got a male cage and you've got an aviary. So if they're outside and they're not getting supplemental light, then that would be the reason why. Ozarky says, how much are balut eggs going for per egg in your area? In my area, we sell them for 50 cents. But there's stipulations to that. They have to buy bulk, they have to buy quite a bit at one time, and things like that. But that's what we sell them for. Juanita says, I had 2 separate batches of eggs and they both hatched fine, but after about 3 days, they were not able to stand up and didn't survive. Any idea why this would occur? Again, it has to be lack of, it has to be the process of elimination. So it might be one thing, it could be another thing, it could be this or it could be that or it could be this, and you just have to kind of eliminate them. Most of the time, the most popular reason why, the most common reason why, is there was something wrong with the feed. Either it was a bad bag. We've had that here where we've gotten our feed customized for years and years and years and years, and we'll open a bag and for some reason it just looks different, whatever the case, and we don't use it and we'll get a credit for it. But at one point in time, we actually did use like 5 bags that just didn't necessarily look right, and we just didn't notice, and we had major issues. And there's we still don't know why there was a few bad bags. Now that hasn't happened for years, but there was just bad quality control. And if you're buying it at Tractor Supply or whatever, those bags are getting pretty old by the time they are made, and then they travel, and then they're put in a warehouse, and then they're this, and then they're that. So it could just be, it was in a warehouse and it was, getting really hot or getting really cold, and it's hard to say, but usually it's a feed issue, especially if it's 3 days. So if they were fine up until 3 days, it's almost always a feed issue. Foster Farm says, Zach, are Rosettas more aggressive than other colors? Ours are jerks to each other, where the wilds are not crazy acting. No, Rosettas are pretty normal, but even though the name of Jumbo Wilds are Jumbo Wilds, they're actually really docile. It seems as though that the larger the quail, the less they care about fighting. Like, they just don't have the energy. They're like, I don't know, whatever. And then the standards are like, yeah, I'm feisty. What you gonna do about it? Is usually how it goes. If you can, hit the like button, support the channel. I greatly appreciate it. Question, if this is from Joy. If I have a quail with an injury, can liquid bandage be used on it? Yes, that is, you can. Just make sure, because remember, they're really small, so you don't want to use a lot. JC Ingram says, Jumbo White Wing, they are 8 days and 2 are yellow. One is more yellow than the other. Is that normal? Yeah, you will get some whites out of it. So it's a gene. The white wing is a gene, but you will get some full wilds, and then you'll get some full whites out of the Jumbo White Wing. So yeah, that is normal. Jason says, my quail are 2.5 weeks old, and I noticed some of them lay down with their legs stretched out. That is normal? It looks like they're dead. It looks like they're about to die. They're not. They're just chilling, relaxing, and it's quite comical as soon as you stop worrying about it. So yeah, it's completely normal. And yes, it does look strange. I agree. um, Okay, so Jennifer was asking about the males not crowing. Says yes, they're under a carport. The bachelor group, they probably don't have enough light on them. Then that would be it. Because if you want a bachelor pad, and the bachelor pad, you don't want a lot of fighting and a lot of breeding and whatever. Then you actually need to cover that cage up with a blanket, a towel, a tarp, whatever. And in darkness, they're docile as crap. Like they don't care. So I would assume they're just not getting enough light, and so they're just fine. Again, thank you everybody. I'm only reading the questions tonight because it's supposed to be rapid fire. I do feel guilty for not responding to everybody and welcoming you, but I do appreciate all of you are here, so thank you very much. AJG says, thank you, no eggs in the incubator yet. I'm just waiting for my first order of eggs ever to get shipped by you. New to hatching anything, so just trying to make sure I'm doing it right. No, it sounds like you're going to do great. You're already taking all the steps that you should take. So congratulations on that. I would insulate it with the towel or the blanket, maybe even possibly something thicker like a quilt if you've got one, and see if that changes things before you get your eggs. And then I can give you a couple more tips if we need to. That should fix your issue. So if it doesn't, usually you want to give it about 24 hours to put the change in effect. Put the effect in, change in effect. So if not, you can always reach out to me. Again, my phone number and my email is on the website at the bottom. And then we'll try to troubleshoot a couple more things before your eggs come. But you're going to do great. I really do believe you're going to have an amazing hatch rate. Beam Farm says, I have pearls that are aggressive and will spit on me and cut. will spit on me and come at me. I haven't had any pearls ever do that. Usually it's not necessarily, and I get what you're saying. It's usually a territorial thing. It's usually because, like, I would assume you have an egg rollout, and with that egg rollout, you're taking their eggs, and I would assume the ones that are aggressive are probably going to be the hens. I would assume the hens are the ones that are trying to attack you, because those are usually the ones that could easily go broody if they were in the right setting. Sarah says, that's all right, thanks. I do plan on calling them, just waiting for them to be tasty sized. There you go, absolutely, and they should. Very, very rarely will one of them become a runt. Usually they grow up to be normal size. That is a lot, though. I'm sorry that happened to you. Hello from Hungary. Welcome. Glad you're here. What is your opinion about using red light at daylight? Either one is completely fine. We actually use the red lights for the first week in the brooder, and then we switch them over to daylight after that. And I don't think it makes a huge difference. So either one would be fine. Now, I would not use the red light for like your layers, but in the brooder room, or yeah, in the brooders, yeah, either one would be fine. Tiny Quail Farm. Let's see. Okay, yeah. I didn't want to skip anybody. Tiny Quail Farm says, I feed my breeding quail Country Road layer crumbles, protein, 16% calcium, 3.5. My breeding quail, is that enough, or should I look at another feed? No, that should be okay. Those numbers look okay. It's a crumble. I don't know that brand. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. I wouldn't change it. I think it looks fine. Hunter62012 says, our quail like chickens. We're gonna change their feed over when they start laying. What do you recommend? It's a great question. I'm gonna answer it quickly, but I would recommend you typing into the YouTube search bar after we're done here, feed by Myshire Farm, and a video will show up. It will go over what we feed. It's a short video. I actually show you the labels so that you can kind of match that up if you want to. But long story short, they're not very particular. So, I give you the parameters like 15 to 20% protein, I think it's 3 to 3.5% calcium, and so on and so forth. So I'll give you some standards or whatever. But long story short, if we were just raising for ourselves and, we had a couple egg laying chickens as well, we'd feed them all the same thing. Preferably a crumble. They don't necessarily need to be on a high protein like they do when they're growing out. But, an all flock, all purpose, layer feed, anything will do. They're not really particular at all. Dale says, got gifted my first 3 quail and can't figure out what color 2 of them would fall into despite watching quite a few videos and reading site. Is there an easy to follow site or video to help identify? Well, the video I have is pretty outdated. I need to redo it. But I do have it. Well, I would say the best thing to do, I would assume they're fully grown. And if they are, I would actually just go to our website and look at our pictures, and you'll be able to match it up pretty quickly. And then that would also give you a description of what it is, most likely what it's going to do for you, how to get it, things like that. That's what I would do. We also have a playlist called All About the Colors, and it goes into each color, what they look like, how to sex them, average lifespan, average this, average that. So you can do either one, but yeah, I would just look at the pictures on the website and just match up. Jasmine is in the house. Welcome. Where do you suggest placing a Govee thermometer inside an Nurturite 360 incubator if one is using the rotator? Concerned about it falling and crushing eggs. I'm used to my LG or Frigibator. We actually put ours at the very top. So there's a little middle that has a little shelf on it. We put it right up there. And then I think midway through, I can't remember why we had to open the incubator, but we did have to open it, and I actually put it in and kind of just flipped it on its side next to an egg, and they did fine. If you're not comfortable with that, it wouldn't be a horrible idea to just let the Nurturite 360 run for a day or two with the Govee in it, making sure it all matches up, and then just taking the Govee out. Because most likely, if it's read correctly for a few days, it's going to read during the entire incubation process. Or you could easily just open it up and throw it in there for a few hours, make sure it reads, whatever. But that's another option. Superhero Quail says, I have 3 males in my aviary, and they have plenty of hens and are happy, and I have supplemental light. None of the males are fighting. Will they start fighting in the spring? No, they shouldn't. They've got plenty of females. They've got the supplemental light. No, I think they're happy quail. They shouldn't be fighting at all. Usually males only fight males in a larger setting if they don't have enough females for each other, and you're doing it right, so you should be fine. Full Quiver says, are heat emitters okay instead of heat lamps for the brooder? Is the constant light a problem? No, the constant light is not a problem. Either one would work fine. It's whatever you think works best for you. But no, either one of them would be just fine. Beam Farm says, when starting up, where was your most sales coming from on hatching eggs? Well, we didn't really start selling hatching eggs for the first 2 years. It was all eating eggs and blutes, and butchered quail. Yeah, we didn't hardly sell any hatching eggs for the first few years. But when we did start selling hatching eggs, Where was your most sales coming from? Oh God. eBay. eBay was a big one. I guess it still is for us, but not. No, it still is. Um, eBay and Facebook is pretty much. I was just on there all the time, and anybody asking, I'd let them know that we were there, whatever. Um, eBay was probably our biggest one. We probably rode eBay's coattail for 2 years. It's a good question. Jasmine says, what's the smallest jumbo weight you would be comfortable including into your breeder's group? I know at least 10 ounces by 8 to 10 weeks old to reach jumbo weight, but does the adult weight need to be heavier? It's a great question. I think that's an individual answer. I think it all depends on what you're comfortable with. You know, when we started, it was 10 ounces at 10 weeks old. It goes in the breeding program. And then we've gotten a lot stricter throughout the years. So now if it's below 12 and a half, it's not used. Now, well, it is used. Okay, so we have a process. All right. So the jumbo wilds are the largest of the largest. So nothing goes into the breeding program of the jumbo wilds unless it's 12 and a half ounces at 10 weeks old, period. If it is between 10 and a half and 12 and a half, it will go into our jumbo sex link cage. If it is below 10 and a half, then it goes into either a mixed cage or butchered or falcon or food or whatever. So nothing goes into our jumbo sex link cage unless it's above 10 and a half, and nothing goes into our jumbo wild cage if it's under 12 and a half. I hope I answered that question correctly. Tiny Quail Farm says, so sorry for so many questions. I've gotten requests for frozen chicks under 2 weeks old. Is there a call method for them? There is. I actually have a bloodless call video. Now, I did not show a chick, but it's the exact same process. But I felt like a lot of people on YouTube would be very offended if I killed a chick. So I just killed some crazy males. But it's a bloodless call. It's very fast. It's very effective. And with quail chicks, it's still very difficult to do, even for me. I usually rarely do it. I usually tell them no. It's hard for me, which is weird. But for the chicks, you don't need a lot of force. But I would watch that video called The Bloodless Call by Myshire Farm on YouTube. It's the same exact process. And congratulations on your account. That's really cool. Superhero Quail says, how do you weigh your quail without them trying to fly away? Do they stay still? I've got a process down. Yeah. I can tell you real quick. So you grab a quail, you take the quail's legs and hold them upside down. They're going to flap for a second, and then you're going to grab the whole thing. You're going to grab the whole quail, put their wings tucked in. You put them on the scale and they won't move. It like disorients them. So yeah, we've got a process. Usually I have a little basket. I grab them, hold them up. Usually I have two, and so while one's flapping, the other one goes in. That one comes out, I put the other one in, and then I keep going. So I've got a process, but we weigh a lot of quail. Dale says, I've watched most of the color playlist as well as looking at the site. Unfortunately, they don't look like any of them. Though the rooster is similar to the golds, the hen is unlike any of them. You sure they're Coturnics? You can always, again, my phone number and my email is on our website at the very bottom, myshirefarm.com. You can feel free to text me pictures of the quail, and I can help you out that way as well. Foster Farm says, if you are a guy, be careful you don't pull the head right off. Dan was afraid not to do it correctly and put a little too much effort into the tug on the head. LOL, poor guy. That can happen. and it's more of a pop. Okay, so if you're gonna try the bloodless call, you are supposed to pull, but it's literally just a jerk. It's not. It's pinch down and jerk, and then that's it. Um, but yeah, every once in a while I stop. I just go through the motions, and I'm just not paying attention. I go, okay. So it does happen, even with me, still. Guys, that is all the questions. I didn't know what to expect because this is our first Tuesday live. So thank you everybody for showing up. I really appreciate you. We had a ton of very, very, very good questions. In fact, this was probably one of the best nights of live Q&A we've had in a long time as far as the quality of the questions go. So I really appreciate that. That was very, very cool of all of you. Thanks for hanging out with me for the past hour. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys got some good information. I will be posting a video. In fact, I will be posting a video. I don't know what today is, Tuesday. Posting a video on Thursday, and it's a 3-parter. And it is titled When Incubators Lie. And so we're going to go into different aspects to look at when your incubator is not telling the truth. So I think it's going to be a really good 3-part series. They're short videos. I think 2 of them are 10 minutes long. The other one's like 6. It's not very long at all. I did jam pack a lot of information in there as quickly as I could, but hopefully that'll help you a lot. So if you are interested in that, hit the like button now, but then also subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon for notifications so you don't miss it. I've got a lot of other videos coming your way. We are working on a ton of new stuff for the Quail community coming at the beginning of the year. So we are hard at work at that. And I think that will benefit a lot of people. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming your way. We'll have that video posted on Thursday for you. And remember, I'll be back live Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a live Q&A community setting. It takes a little bit longer, but it's a lot of fun. And then I'll be back next Tuesday for another rapid fire. So keep writing your questions down so you don't forget. All right, everybody, thank you very, very much. Have a great day, and I hope you voted. Be safe, and we'll see you next time.